Rain poured over the narrow streets of Busan, washing the blood from the pavement. Inside a sleek black car, a young man sat silently, his sharp eyes fixed on the reflection in the window. His name was Jun Kang, heir to one of South Korea's most feared mafia syndicates, the Black Serpents. Though his suit was spotless and his demeanor calm, there was something haunting in the way he watched the world, like a man trapped between duty and desire. He lived a life of danger, silence, and secrets. Every deal came with blood. Every night came with ghosts. Thousands of miles away, Ava Brooks, a soft-spoken African-American artist from Chicago, had just landed in Seoul for a gallery internship. Her dream was simple: to paint the city's soul. She didn't believe in danger or destiny, but fate had its own plans. When her taxi broke down in the wrong district that rainy night, her world collided with Jun's. Their eyes met for a brief moment, hers full of wonder, his full of warning. It was the kind of moment that changes everything. Hey, beautiful viewers, welcome to this story. If you're watching from London, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Nigeria, or South Africa, drop your location in the comments. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more breathtaking love stories like this. And remember, we give shout-outs to the first 3 comments, so be quick. Shout out to Sheila Hunt from Washington State. You're warmly welcomed, and thank you for being with us. As the car door shut and the engine roared away, Ava was left standing in the rain, unaware that the man she had just met was one of Korea's most dangerous secrets, and that her innocent heart had just stepped into a war. Jun Kang didn't believe in coincidence. Every move, every breath was meant to serve a purpose. But that night, as he lay awake in his penthouse overlooking the dark sea, his thoughts betrayed him. The image of the drenched woman, her curly hair plastered to her face, her brown skin glowing under the neon lights, kept haunting him. He tried to push it away, but the more he did, the more her eyes returned. Eyes that didn't fear him. Eyes that saw the man behind the scars. The next morning, Jun ordered his men to investigate the area where her taxi had broken down. They found her name on a gallery roster, Ava Brooks. He could have ignored it, but he didn't. Something about her presence felt pure, and purity was dangerous in his world. Meanwhile, Ava was busy adjusting to life in Seoul. Her art pieces drew attention from curators, but she couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious man who'd stepped out of that black car. His aura lingered in her memory like a storm she couldn't escape. That evening, fate struck again. While setting up an art display in a high-end hotel, Ava noticed him at the entrance, dressed in all black, surrounded by bodyguards. Her heart skipped. His gaze locked onto hers across the room, and for a split second, the noise around them faded. 2 different worlds, one made of bullets, the other of brushes, meeting once again under the same roof. But what Ava didn't know was that Jun wasn't there for art. He was there for business, and his enemies were watching. The night was calm, the soft hum of music echoing through the art gallery as elegant guests admired the paintings. Ava stood near one of her own works, a portrait of peace, when she noticed him again. Jun Kang stood by the far wall, his sharp gaze tracing every detail of the room, not the art. His presence was heavy, magnetic. It felt like he didn't belong there, yet the space seemed to bend around him. She tried to look away, but her curiosity pulled her in. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A glass shattered. Within seconds, chaos erupted. Men in masks stormed the hall, shouting in Korean, guns raised. Guests screamed and scattered for cover. Ava froze, heart pounding, her paint-stained hands trembling. Before she could react, a strong arm wrapped around her waist. It was him. Jun pulled her down behind a marble pillar just as bullets ripped through the air. His expression was calm, too calm, as he pulled out a gun from under his jacket. The gentle man she'd met in the rain was gone. In his place stood someone ruthless, dangerous, and frighteningly precise. When the noise settled, bodies lay still, and the attackers fled. June helped her up, his hand steady on her shoulder. Ava's breathing was sharp, her mind spinning. "Who are you?" she whispered, but he didn't answer. His eyes softened for a second before he said quietly, "You shouldn't have seen this." Then he turned and walked away into the dark alley outside, leaving her surrounded by broken glass and confusion. Ava stared after him, realizing the man who had just saved her life was the same one everyone else seemed to fear. And somehow, her heart refused to stay away. Days passed, but Ava couldn't focus on anything. Every brushstroke felt empty. Every sound reminded her of that night, of the gunfire, the chaos, and the man who had saved her. The police had come and gone, claiming it was a robbery gone wrong, but she knew better. June Kang's face lingered in her thoughts, and her heart whispered that she needed to see him again, not out of fear, but out of something she couldn't explain. She searched the internet, asking quiet questions, following whispers. His name came up in hushed tones. The Serpent's Heir, they called him. The son of the most powerful and feared mafia boss in South Korea. Every article made her pulse race faster. She should have stayed away, but something about him, the sadness behind his strength, drew her closer. One evening, she found herself outside a sleek, heavily guarded building in Gangnam. She almost turned back, but then a familiar voice echoed behind her. "You shouldn't be here, Ava." He stood there, all in black again, his eyes unreadable under the dim streetlights. Her heart jumped. "I came to thank you," she said softly. He stared at her for a long moment before replying, "People who get close to me don't stay safe." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm not afraid." Something flickered in his expression, surprise, then something deeper, something warm. He looked away, almost as if he hated himself for feeling it. That night, for the first time in years, June invited someone into his world. Not a soldier, not an ally, but a woman who saw his soul before his scars. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that choice would change everything. Ava had promised herself she would stay out of danger, but being around June was like standing near fire, thrilling yet impossible to control. He began to trust her slowly, taking her into parts of his world few had ever seen. Behind the luxury cars and expensive suits was a hidden empire built on fear. Every meeting June attended was layered with danger, and every smile around him hid a knife. Ava listened, learned, and tried to understand the man behind the power. But one evening, she witnessed something that shook her to the core. They were in a dimly lit warehouse near the docks. June had brought her along after insisting she stay in the car. She didn't listen. Through a cracked door, she saw him arguing with one of his own men, a betrayal unfolding right before her eyes. The man, desperate and shaking, revealed he'd sold information about June's operations to a rival gang. Before Ava could move, June drew his gun, his voice cold as ice. "You knew the rules." The shot echoed, followed by silence. Ava gasped, stumbling backward, and he turned. Their eyes met. His face softened instantly, but the damage was done. She had seen the darkness he had tried to hide. He walked toward her slowly, guilt written all over him. "Now you understand," he said quietly. "This is the life I live." Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "And it's killing you inside, isn't it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned away, hands trembling slightly, a silent confession of the war within him. For the first time, Ava realized the truth. June wasn't just dangerous. He was broken, trapped in a life he never chose. From the moment Ava saw the darkness behind June's world, there was no going back. She tried to leave Seoul, to forget him and the danger that came with his name. But leaving a man like June Kang was never simple. Within days, shadowed figures began following her, whispering her name, watching her every move. The rival gang had found out about the foreign woman close to the serpent's heir, and in their world, love was the easiest weapon. June heard about it before she did. His men brought him the news while he sat in his father's old study, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "They've marked her," one of them said. He froze. For years he had built walls around his heart to keep the innocent out. Now those walls were burning. That night he drove alone to Ava's small apartment on the edge of the city. She opened the door, eyes wide in surprise. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Neither should they," he replied. He pulled her into the car without another word. As they sped through the dark streets, headlights chasing them, Ava realized she was no longer an outsider. She was part of his world now. The man who had once been a stranger was now her only protection. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice trembling. He looked at her briefly and said, "Because losing you would destroy what's left of me." As the night swallowed them, the first gunshot rang out from behind. Tires screeched. The war for love had begun, and there was no turning back. They drove for hours until the city lights faded behind them, replaced by the soft glow of moonlight over the mountains. June led Ava into a hidden cabin tucked deep within the woods, one of his safe houses, far from his enemies and the chaos of his world. The silence there was strange, almost peaceful, broken only by the sound of the wind brushing through the trees. For the first time since meeting him, Ava saw the man behind the legend, tired, scarred, and human. Inside the cabin, the air was cold but tender. June built a fire, his hands steady though his mind raced. Ava sat close, studying the man who had risked everything for her. "You could have let me go," she whispered. He looked up, the firelight flickering across his face. "I tried," he said softly, "but I couldn't." The words hung between them, fragile yet powerful. For the first time, June reached out, brushing his fingers against her hand. No gunfire, no bodyguards, just two souls who'd found each other in the ruins of chaos. As the night grew darker, they talked for hours. Ava shared stories of her childhood, her art, her dreams. June listened quietly, as if her voice was the only thing that kept him grounded. Somewhere between laughter and silence, their hands found each other again, and this time he didn't let go. For one fleeting moment, it felt like the world outside didn't exist. But deep down, both of them knew peace never lasted long in June's world. And as the first light of dawn crept through the window, he looked out toward the horizon, sensing that danger was already on its way. The morning was too quiet. Even the birds seemed to sense what was coming. June had barely slept, his mind sharp and restless. He had made too many enemies to believe they wouldn't find him. And they did. Just before noon, the sound of tires crunching on gravel shattered the calm. Ava looked up from her sketchbook, her heart sinking as she saw the fear in his eyes. "Stay here," he said softly, grabbing his gun. "No, June," she whispered, "don't do this alone." But he smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both love and goodbye. The fight was quick and brutal. The rival gang had tracked them, led by one of June's former allies turned traitor. Gunfire echoed through the mountains as June's men tried to hold them off. Ava hid behind a wall, praying for it to stop. When she finally ran outside, she saw June standing at the edge of the clearing, blood on his shirt, but his eyes still fixed on her. He had taken every bullet meant for her. She dropped to her knees beside him, tears streaming down her face. He reached up weakly, touching her cheek. "Don't remember me for what I've done," he whispered. "Remember me for how I loved you." Hours later, the police arrived. The gang was gone, and the storm had passed. Ava stood under the fading light, holding one of his necklaces close to her heart. She knew the world would call him a criminal, but to her, he was the man who had finally chosen love over violence. If you're watching from London, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Nigeria, or South Africa, comment below and let us know where you're tuning in from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories. We give special shoutouts to the first 3 comments, so stay quick and stay connected. Moral lesson: love can bloom even in the darkest hearts, but it always comes with a choice. June taught us that real love isn't about possession, it's about protection, sacrifice, and the courage to change, even when it costs everything.